Okay, gotta admit, when I first heard we were diving into the world of Payroll Clerk, I wasn't exactly doing backflips, you know? But then I got my hands on this RoleCatcher thing.
Yeah, it's not the flashiest title, is it? But trust me, there's way more to it than meets the eye, especially now.
That's what I'm hoping we can dig into today. What specifically about payroll has you so fired up these days?
It's the way it's becoming this unexpected hub for technology. Like you said, RoleCatcher helps you find jobs, sure, but the AI behind it that analyzes resumes and stuff, that's next level stuff. And that same kind of tech is revolutionizing how we think about payroll, too.
All right, so for those of us who still picture a payroll clerk with like an old school adding machine, paint us a picture of what this role actually looks like today.
Think of it as the heart of a company's finances. Payroll clerks are the ones making sure everyone gets paid accurately and on time. Which, easier said than done because you're dealing with wages, bonuses, deductions, taxes, the whole 9 yards.
So it's more than just, here's your paycheck.
Oh yeah, way more. You need serious attention to detail, gotta be able to spot discrepancies like a hawk. And when things go sideways, which they inevitably do, you need those problem-solving skills to set things straight.
Problem solving, you say. Give us an example. What kind of curveballs might come a payroll clerk's way?
Let's say an employee gets a paycheck and the amount's wrong. Could be a simple typo, could be a misunderstanding about their bonus structure, or maybe the system itself glitched. The payroll clerk, they're the detective in this scenario, figuring out where things went off the rails.
Payroll detective, huh? That's a new one.
I like it.
So we've got this element of investigation, but you mentioned technology too. How's that playing into all this?
Big time. We're talking software like ADP, Paychecks, for the big dogs, maybe even SAP. These are now the bread and butter for anyone in payroll.
So that image of someone hunched over a calculator is long gone, huh? It sounds like tech fluency is non-negotiable these days.
100%. If you can't navigate these systems, input data accurately, and troubleshoot when things go haywire, you're going to have a hard time keeping up. It's not just number crunching anymore, it's data management, compliance, the whole package.
It's wild to think how much this role has changed already, and we're just scratching the surface, right? With AI and automation becoming so prevalent, I'm super curious about how it's impacting the world of payroll specifically.
Oh, it's huge. We're already seeing AI handling things like timesheet processing, flagging any errors or potential issues before they become a headache, and even forecasting a company's future payroll needs based on all sorts of data points. Streamlining, that's the name of the game.
Right, makes sense. But I have to ask, if AI is taking over all these tasks, what does that mean for the humans in the equation? Are payroll clerks going to get phased out?
It's the million-dollar question, right? And honestly, it's a valid concern, but I think it's more nuanced than that. See, I believe AI, it's not here to replace, it's here to free us up. Free us up to focus on the things that require human judgment, the stuff AI can't replicate.
So it's less about humans versus machines and more like humans working alongside machines.
Exactly. Think of it as a partnership. AI can crunch the numbers, no problem, but we need humans to analyze those numbers, spot the anomalies, basically make sure the whole system is functioning ethically and efficiently.
Ethics, that's an interesting point. What kind of ethical considerations are we talking about, especially in the context of AI and payroll?
Bias is a big one. We've seen AI algorithms in other fields, where if they're trained on biased data, it just perpetuates those existing inequalities. So in payroll, we have to be so careful. We need that human oversight to make sure these systems are promoting fair and equitable pay practices across the board.
So it's not just about getting the numbers right. It's making sure those numbers are actually reflecting a commitment to fairness for everyone, regardless of anything else.
100%. And that's where a deep understanding of both the tech and the ethical implications, that's where the human element shines. We bring that empathy, that ethical reasoning. That's what makes all the difference, especially as AI gets more and more sophisticated.
So a payroll clerk of the future, they're not just a numbers whiz. They're almost like a guardian of ethical practices in a way.
Exactly. And they need to be comfortable in that rapidly changing landscape because the technology is only going to get more advanced.
Speaking of changing landscapes, let's talk career trajectory. We've established that this isn't your grandma's payroll department anymore, so where can this role lead within an organization? RoleCatcher mentioned this whole progression from entry-level to senior positions, but what does that actually look like?
Right, so you've got your classic ladder to climb, sure. But what gets me really excited is how this role can be a springboard into so many different specializations. You start as a payroll clerk, maybe, but it doesn't end there, not even close.
Okay, you've got to give us some examples. What kind of specialized roles are we talking about here?
Well, as you gain experience, you could become a payroll manager, overseeing a whole team. Or maybe you're drawn to the analytical side, you become a compensation analyst, figuring out fair pay structures for everyone. Or maybe you go hyper-specific, international payroll, benefits administration, you name it. And those are just a few off the top of my head. The field is literally bursting with possibilities.
So it's not just a ladder. It's almost like a choose-your-own-adventure for your career. You start with this solid foundation as a payroll clerk, but then you can take those skills and go in so many directions.
Exactly. And don't underestimate how transferable these skills are. The attention to detail, the analytical thinking, the tech fluency, the ethical awareness we talked about, those are valuable assets in any industry, really.
This is gold for anyone listening who might be considering this career path. They might start as a payroll clerk, but they're not pigeonholed. They're opening doors to a whole world of opportunities down the line.
That's what I'm saying. People think payroll and they think narrow, limited, but it's the opposite. It's a gateway into the whole world of business and finance, really. It's all connected.
I gotta say, this deep dive has totally changed my perspective on payroll clerks. I had no idea how much went into it. From number crunching to detective work to navigating the wild world of AI, it's definitely not what I expected.
Right. People don't realize it's the backbone of a company. Think about it. You don't pay your people accurately and on time, the whole thing falls apart pretty quickly.
Ain't that the truth? So for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, you've convinced me this is way more interesting than I thought, what are some tangible steps they can take? Like, if someone wants to break into this field, where do they even start?
Well, I always say tech skills are your best friend. Get familiar with the big players in payroll software, like we talked about ADP, Paychecks. Having that foundation, it'll put you miles ahead.
Makes sense. But those platforms, they can seem kind of intimidating if you've never used them before. Any tips for getting that initial exposure?
Oh, totally. Most of them offer free trials, online tutorials, that sort of thing. Great way to get your feet wet. And don't underestimate the power of a good certification course. Some community colleges offer them, even online platforms. Looks great on a resume, shows you're serious.
Awesome advice. Now, what about for those who are already in the payroll game? Any tips for staying ahead of the curve, especially with all this new tech popping up left and right?
Network, network, network. Join industry groups like the American Payroll Association. Great way to stay updated on the latest trends, connect with other professionals, even snag some continuing education credits. That stuff never hurts.
So it's about always learning, evolving, right?
Yeah.
Because this field is not standing still.
Exactly. If you're comfortable being uncomfortable, if you're curious, adaptable, you're going to thrive in this environment.
I love that. Embrace the chaos. Well, this has been a wild ride, wouldn't you say? We went from payroll clerk, how mundane, to payroll clerk, sign me
I'm
up.
telling you, it's a hidden gem of a career path for those who are willing to dig a little deeper, which is what we're all about here.
And on that note, huge thanks to everyone tuning in for this deep dive into the world of payroll. We hope you learned something new, maybe even got a little inspired. Until next time, keep exploring and keep those questions coming.